And we are live. We're just waiting for Instagram to catch up because we always have to wait for Instagram to catch up. Waiting for the preview, but this is a really exciting day to go live. Okay, we are officially fully live. Welcome everyone to What the Frack Live, where we break down marketing tips, trends, and topics in 30 to 40 to 50 minutes or less. We are your fractional team, and we're really excited because on Thursdays we bring on a new fractional executive to help you on a different piece of your marketing journey. And today we have Brett, and I'm going to completely mess up your last name.
Farmiloe.
Brett Farmiloe, who is the founder of featured.com. I actually met Brett when I was mentoring with the Arizona Commerce Authority. You guys have won the Arizona Innovation Challenge and went through the Venture Ready program. Lots of really exciting things to talk about today, but can you start with, you have a really interesting background. So do you want to start with your background?
I
Sure.
love interesting marketing backgrounds.
Yeah, well, my marketing background started as an accountant. So majored in accounting from the University of Arizona, and coming out of school, wasn't sure I wanted to be a financial auditor, and created this idea to travel around the country in an RV and interview people about their career paths and document their stories for others to learn from. So I created this career education website, went 16,000 miles, 38 states with 3 buddies, interviewed 300 people. And that was my first foray into digital marketing because people found the site through SEO and kind of exposed me to the world and the convergence of analytics with marketing. And that's how I got my start. So, and then I went to go work as a social media manager, started an agency, grew that agency, sold it, and now have started featured.com.
I have so many questions just out of that, like where to start. Can I ask one sideball question, which would be, you had a couple of buddies that came with you. How did you convince them to go with you?
That was a pretty easy sell. You want to hop in the RV? We're going to be gone in the summer for 4 months. Like, yeah, that's every 22-year-old's dream.
That's awesome.
Or not everyone, but yeah, ours.
A lot of people's, right? So I think, so our audience here is a lot of marketers, fractional executives, business owners, just trying to figure out marketing. We like to think about business holistically, and I think a lot of them come from that agency background. But today we're kind of talking a little bit about media and the power of media. And I will always like to start with an unpopular opinion. So I don't think this one's going to be so unpopular, but my unpopular opinion today is that most people, including marketers, don't actually understand how PR and public relations and media work. They understand the concept and they understand that they need to get it, but they don't understand how it actually comes to fruition or how that process happens. And therefore, they're not gaining the most benefits from their marketing strategy when it comes to PR and media. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's why people hire PR agencies, because they don't understand what's going on. So yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm actually kind of guilty too. Like I'm actually not sure how PR works too much either. And maybe that's, why we founded a platform that kind of dumbs it down and makes it accessible for folks. So yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with you.
Yeah, I just want to add, I think one of my unpopular opinions, or what I would add to that, is it's not even that they don't necessarily know, but they don't understand what the outcomes are of PR and marketing, right? Like, what are the outcomes that you expect from it? And most people think that it's like a moneymaker, right? Where it's really a brand thing. So
yeah,
that.
Well, so we've mentioned Featured. What is featured.com?
Yeah, it's a knowledge sharing platform. We connect subject matter experts with publishers to create question and answer content. And so we've got about 1,000 publishers that use the platform. They ask a question on Featured. We invite vetted experts to answer that question. We'll select the best answers, create an article, and that article is published on the publisher website with attribution back to the expert. And so basically, it's a great way to share knowledge and promote your business. And that was the problem that I had in running a marketing agency. We had about 50 small business clients. And how do you promote a trenchless pipelining company? That person knows a heck of a lot about trenchless pipelines, and there's some publisher out there that needs that insight. And so just a natural way to ask questions to draw out that expertise and knowledge and make that natural connection to benefit both sides.
It is so cool. One, I love technological answers to problems, right? And this one is such a natural fit. Everybody's trying to figure out how they get their insight out there. And then publishers on the flip side are trying to get expert opinion. It is such a phenomenal way to do this in a more frictionless way. I love it.
It looks like you have to talk to Andrew, because Andrew just commented in WTF, no way. I think he's interested in featured.com. So we'll have to connect.
You know where to find it.
So what have you seen in terms of like businesses on using this platform, getting the media coverage? Like, what do you see is the benefit from that relationship?
Yeah, I think that most people, there's a couple different benefits. One is, the organic search benefits. You see a lot of motivations from folks to answer questions and get backlinks to their websites to help increase that organic search. So with that said, publishers aren't obligated to include links, but we do make that transparent through our platform where basically if you're going to answer a question, is it going to result in a do follow backlink and no follow backlink? Is it going to be unlinked? So people know and manage expectations going into that, and so that it's not a black hat type of thing, because that's very against Google's guidelines to require a backlink for a certain action. So that's one reason. People definitely see the organic search benefits, but then also people just need an outlet to share knowledge and their expertise. And going back to my RV days, like why would 300 people sit down with 4 college kids and share their life stories? It's because not everyone gets to be on WTF.
I love it. Tamara, you come from the publisher side.
Yeah.
That
last one took me a second because I was I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, all the things that could be done and how this is like such an easier way to do things versus help a reporter out, right? Which I remember when I was doing PR for companies, like that took so much time. You have to fill out the forms and you write it the correct way. You have to write like an intro letter versus just like, what quote do you want? And if you like my quote, keep it. If you don't like my quote, don't keep it. But it didn't take me an hour to send a press, inquiry. It took me 5 minutes. That just makes so much more sense. Yeah. Sorry, Nicole. Now to answer your question, I come from the media. I used to be the one trying to get all of those answers. And I see this as just so beneficial. I mean, one thing I'm curious that I come from TV. So obviously we'd want things visually. This is more publishing, which is okay for quotes. I wonder how is there any problem that you see with the people who are wanting quotes, wanting more like pictures, and do you have that on your site?
Yeah, for now, quotes only is working out. I think that there's a pretty big demand for that, and obviously there's the video side of things, and what I find really with we're talking about power of media. There's a lot of media requests for experts, and they want to have you get on a video interview and do all of that. I think for the most part, like the mainstream marketer, the mainstream business owner doesn't have a whole lot of time to go back and forth and schedule stuff and show up and do the on-camera interview, versus in 2 minutes just share a quote, share your knowledge, and move on with it. So I like what we're doing. There's definitely a lot more potential for it.
I have more of a question on how you started your company, because a lot of tech companies or a lot of companies have the same problem that you had, the chicken or the egg. You needed both sides, right? You were a double-sided marketplace, basically. How did you go about solving that problem and getting to a critical mass where things were matching, your demand was matching the users that you had?
Yeah, so I actually took a page out of Cameo's playbook. If you know Cameo, they originally started by focusing on like a specific subset of like D-list celebrities. And they were like, yeah, like if we get enough D-list celebrities, there's like 10 people who are huge fans of that D-lister, and gradually we could work our way up to the A's. And so we focused on human resources as our first industry vertical, and not to compare HR with the D-list celebrity, but that's getting very specific about who you're focused on. We started working with a lot of different HR publications. So if you're promoting an HR tech company, or if you're an HR professional, Featured was the place to do it. And then we expanded from there, moving into technology and finance and general business queries. We're still kind of professional oriented and gradually getting into different lifestyle categories. But that's how we got started. You to grow a marketplace, you need both sides. You got to focus on the hard side, and gradually the easy side starts to follow. And, market by market, vertical by vertical, it gets a little bit easier.
Yeah. We love to focus on actionable items here. So let's say I'm a business owner, I am a marketer or a CMO person who has a few different companies under me, maybe a fractional. What would be, I want to start getting my clients maybe some logos, maybe some write-ups, using it for SEO. Like, what would be the first steps? Like, how do I start?
Yeah. Do you want me to be self-promotional, or do you want me to give some?
You're welcome to be. Yeah. I mean, we want to know how to use Featured, I guess.
Yeah. My obvious answer would be, go to featured.com, answer a couple questions, and get quoted in publications. And that my unpopular opinion would be to not only just have the business owner or the founder be that spokesperson, but what I think is going to gradually happen, and what's happening in publishing overall, is this huge swell of UGC content. You're seeing Reddit's traffic just skyrocket. It surpassed Amazon's recently because of the rise of AI, content. And now human-generated content is like a scarcity. It's rare. It's becoming more and more valuable. And I think that the trend with marketing is going to be taking your employees who have expertise and basically activating them to become the marketing piece to your company. So if you look at, Featured, that's a great way to do it. I think that LinkedIn has a ton of attention, turning towards it. So I think that if you focus on sharing your expertise in unique different channels and ways, I think that that's probably one of the ways to get started. And then, for a business owner, they could determine which channels work best for them, where their target market's hanging out. But that's what I would recommend. Yeah.
And I have two kind of smaller questions, because I know this answer because I've worked with you or talked to you before on this, but I remember there was a part of your pitch, and I don't know if this is still kind of something you guys, talk about, but business owners, let's say they have a blog and they want more SEO content, they can actually sign up as a publisher, right? We're not just talking about like Forbes and, big publishers. Marketers can use this to actually pull blog posts for their own SEO purposes, correct?
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite pieces about what we've built. So you can ask a question and get a full-length article that features expert insights and do it at no cost. So it's a pretty powerful way to get content for your website and to help scale that. The reason why I love it is because of the self-selection aspect on Featured. So you could go there, you could look at all these different questions, and you could choose which ones to respond to. And so yes, everyone wants to be featured in Forbes and Fast Company and Inc. and some of those publications. But going back to my trenchless pipelining company example, maybe there's this like niche blog that like just is talking about this one thing, and it's a perfect match. So I love seeing those matches being made all day. Right now, for me, it's the horticulturists and the arborists that are out there talking about plants. Like I love seeing those insights come through and put that stuff to good use. Because, like, for example, we have a horticulturist with a PhD from Harvard, and she's using Featured all the time to share knowledge and get quoted in publications. So that's a fun one.
I love that. And that really goes to kind of the first thing I said about like, what outcome do you want and what outcome do you expect? And I think that it's the same for this as it is with influencers, right? I think we underestimate the smaller publications with really loyal followings versus just wanting this huge name where you could get published in Forbes, but maybe that only gets 40 reads, right? I mean, because Forbes is so saturated with content, where this one blogger has 100 subscribers, but maybe all those 100 subscribers want to buy what you have or hear what you have to say. So I think that that's a really important thing, not only for any fractional or business owner that's listening, but also, for the publications and the writers.
Totally. Because you see this big trend as well, with looking at what's the site's expertise, what's that site known for, because Google wants to rank those type of websites. Like some site that's like about a specific thing that matches a search query, those are the sites that rise in ranking versus the generalist type of sites that are not known for anything and known for everything. So I think that the way that you make that match is really intelligent in terms of, seeing that rise in search rankings.
Yeah. And what I think that you're doing so geniusly, and I think this comes from your background of SEO, is that so often what I see with marketers and PR agencies and business owners is that they pay a PR agency thinking that if I get on, CNN or I get on Forbes, it's just going to mean lots of business for me. And what they forget about is after you've gotten that logo, there's a whole nother funnel that has to happen, right? Like, how does it work into the holistic marketing plan? And what you guys are doing is not necessarily forgetting that piece, right? You're saying, hey, the best way to get the power of media is to not just get that logo, but to get that logo that links back, that uses the SEO, that ranks on Google for your specific expertise. And I think that that's a really powerful piece of this that is missing generally in PR.
Yeah, totally. Like anytime someone gets featured, we send them an email saying, hey, here's you got featured, congrats. And then also here's 3 steps to maximize that so that people are educated and say like, yeah, definitely put it on your press page, definitely, share it on LinkedIn, but giving them, ways to maximize that, especially within the sales process. I think that really helps justify and humanize the people behind a business. So if someone's thinking about doing business with the company and sales folks are incorporating these article placements to further elaborate on a point that might have been a point in the sales discussion, it's a really cool way to differentiate.
Yeah, it's great for sales and if you're going for investors, right? Or any sort of capital or anything like that, utilizing it in there. People forget about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for the investors too, who are going out and raising their funds.
Right, exactly. And I love the sales piece because I talk about this a lot. Like when we're doing some of these branding pieces or these blog posts, like we just post them, but the sales team, we should be enabling them. We saw that after COVID, the amount of touch points almost doubled before someone is willing to buy. And so if you can give a touch point that's not a hard sell, it's just, hey, thought you'd be interested in this. This was something we were talking about last week, right? It just adds that human element to the sales cycle.
Yeah, that's a killer point. Now you're making me think about all the additional send-offs that I'm gonna make after this, WTF episode.
Right? Seriously. So Tamara, from a media standpoint, from the journalist standpoint, like where do you see the use for this?
I mean, where do you not see the use for it, right? Like I love this technology. I love the idea of being able to more easily source experts. I was in TV, so I always had to have video. But for me, I would go out, I would be trying to source the most unique quote that I could find, right? And I think for you, just my question as a journalist would be, so how do you vet, right? So how does someone understand? Like I'm like, let me get to the source here. How would you vet? How do you ensure that someone's credible? How do you ensure that a journalist knows that this source is credible and not just a troll?
Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into that question for sure. And I think that speaking generally, there's 3 different verification people responsible in that flow. So there's the person that's submitting. Oftentimes that's an agency that's basically getting that quote from that person, verifying and then submitting. It goes through our platform, all the different checks that we do, making sure that their LinkedIn profile, like to sign up for featured, you actually have to have a LinkedIn profile. And so we're using that as a verification system and then we're actually including a link to that LinkedIn profile within the article itself so that readers can verify the expertise. But
do
then
they have to be verified LinkedIn users? I still have to do that.
Yeah, there's that too. And then, it goes over to the publisher too, who ultimately has say in everything. So vetting is 100% like one of the most important things throughout the whole workflow, because you've got to have reliable insights to display to a reader. Otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah. And I can see that being a challenge. Cause again, like that would have been if I was to bring something to my publisher, I would have to be able to say, yes, I've done all the due diligence and not, you know, all these sources.
Totally. And most journalists will actually have to speak with that person to you know, put them into an insight. So there's a lot of, you know, in the age that we're kind of living in, you got to have that verification.
Yeah. I think too, the other thing I use featured in our company, we obviously signed up from a really early stage on, because I've known you for a while here. And you probably, if you go into your database, you've seen I've only answered like a few handful of questions, but what we actually use it for is to see what people are asking. So if I'm thinking about topics for episodes, or I'm thinking about a topic for a blog post, going on and actually seeing what publishers are asking for, the topics. It's almost like a Google Trends situation.
That's cool. Yeah. Well,
So,
yeah. I mean, that's stuff that we geek out on too. And honestly, like I just hang out over here in Office 96 and don't leave too often. So staying current on trends through Featured is something that, I try to take advantage of. But that's a cool use case.
So I guess there's a lot of things. Can you give us some stats on, you said you have how many publishers on the platform?
Over 1,000.
Nice. And do you have any stats on seeing like, I think I remember you used to have a stat on if you answer X amount of questions, there's like almost like a 90% guarantee you're going to get published in something, right? You had some sort of stat like that, correct?
Yeah. So typically our average success rate is basically 1 in 2 answers that are submitted will result in publication. And, you know, that stat goes back and forth a little bit because there's some people who will go and answer everything under the sun that they don't have expertise in. And then there's others that are very selective in what they do. So, you know, we do our best to make sure that knowledge is put to good use in terms of making sure that if we ask you a question and we get a great answer, we want to make sure that that answer has every fighting chance to see publications. So we've also received at this point, we're on our way to our millionth answer. We should be getting there pretty soon. So that's an exciting milestone for us. And, you know, just the diversity and cool community that we've built, you know, I think that we're now north of 30,000 experts who have signed up. And we see some people who are pretty passionate about the platform.
So if let's just say I'm brand new to it and I'm trying to decide between Featured or kind of other sources of getting my expertise out there, how much time does it take on Featured to answer questions? And then I would like, after you say that, I want to like counter that to how much time it would take me to then submit to publications or come up with creative pitches.
Yeah, it takes about 4 minutes on Featured. So from sign up to submitting an answer. So, and then once you're on, you know, we'll periodically email you with questions that we think are relevant to your expertise. And then it takes however long you want to write the answer for. And usually those answers are 4 to 8 sentences. So pretty low time commitment. And in comparison, you know, if you're going to do the work, think about the workflow. It's like, all right, identify the journalist, identify the publication, find the pitch angle, write the pitch, follow up, go hit them up on LinkedIn, you know, whatever it is. I think it's an industry that needs that type of simplicity, especially when you're looking at the average small business owner that's time strapped and resource constrained and has an abundance of knowledge to share and has a real need. They need visibility. It's really hard. Like, it's so hard to get visibility online. It's very confusing. So I think that, you know, that simplicity is needed.
Well, and it's funny because Nicole, so I come from the media world, right? And so usually when I talk to people and I say I do marketing, they're like, oh, you do PR. And I'm like, I don't do PR. PR is very time consuming. And it takes a lot, you know, like there's a lot that goes into it. It's a lot of networking. It's time confusing. You've got to keep your databases. Like, I was like, it's the one thing that I actually do not like to do.
And clients all the time ask, like, when they ask for a quote, they're like, why is it so expensive? What do we have guaranteed? And it's like, you don't understand the amount of time that goes into every piece of PR. And so I think that Featured is really like cutting a lot of that out. Plus I would say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Brett, but once these people are kind of on these journalists' radars, right? Like after they've gotten published, is there a chance for them to reach back out, or have you seen that happen?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff happen. It's kind of cool. I think that, yeah, once a journalist like has a good, reliable source, like that trenchless pipelining company or whatever that I keep going back to, like, you see that those connections happen often. I think that the other cool part about this is that the output of a lot of these articles is, for lack of a better term, it's an expert roundup, so there's an introduction, there's 10 different insights from different experts. But one thing that I think has been pretty cool is the experts connecting with each other and like drumming up new business opportunities and things like that. So a lot of career coaches and, business executives and things like that will use Featured and then connect with each other and score some good consulting gigs out of that. So yeah, I think that it goes back to what you were just talking about in terms of what happens after. And that's really where a lot of the stuff off platform can take place.
Yeah. And Tamara, the one thing you'll really like, I thought was really awesome was that with like help a reporter out, or even some of these pitches, you send out the email and then you're like, yeah, I don't know if it's ever been written. I don't know anything. And so you get that whole pipeline afterwards. You could see all the ones you've submitted. So if you want to go back and make a longer blog post yourself about a topic that you submitted for, you can see your answer. Like you can see if even if you weren't chosen, you could see if the article was written, like things like that. So you always know where you stand with what you submit.
Well, and that's interesting because like that was always the thing just in general with PR for me is it's like you sent a bunch out and then just like you just waited for anyone to get back to you, right? And even with help a reporter out, like sometimes it would be an anonymous author, right, that you would be submitting to. And you're like, this may not even be a real thing, right? I'm spending 3 hours putting together this pitch and quote and all of that. And this may not even be a real thing. This may not be a real author. This could be just someone being like, I might do a blog one day.
Yeah.
So I love this, that you kind of have a guarantee that at least you're spending a chunk of time and it's a question that's been asked, it's going somewhere, and there's a high probability that you'll get something if you do enough posts, enough answers.
Yeah. So I have a question that I've been asking towards like the end of all of these lives to all of our experts, because I think that in the marketing realm, there's a lot of red flags or things that are misunderstood. So in your space, in what you've been seeing, if let's say I'm a business owner or I'm a marketer and I'm looking to start putting myself out there as a expert, or my clients out there as experts, what is a red flag I should be looking out for when doing these things?
So red flag in regards to establishing expertise online, or I guess. So I guess when you don't have something that closes the loop in terms of like feedback, like if you're trying, I guess it's the red flag is like lack of analytics or impact. So I think that's one thing that LinkedIn actually does really well in terms of engagement and showing impressions and things like that, just to show your reach. But I guess a red flag for any kind of, because I think that I think back to my time in running an agency, and the number one phone call that I would always get is like the person who's super distrusting of you right out the gate because they had been burned before. It's like taking your car to a car mechanic. You don't want to do it, but you got to. And so like, I think that if you're in a situation, the red flag to me would be like a lack of any kind of real results and substance and communication that would lead up to that lack of result and substance. So whether you're hiring an agency, making any kind of marketing efforts, I think that you've got to have some sort of metric that shows that you're on the right track.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. So just to kind of, because we love actionable takeaways here, just to kind of wrap that up. So the space that you're in, media can be very powerful if you are using it not just to get a logo But if you're using it for the SEO, for the backlinks, for the relationships, if you're a business owner or you are a CMO or any person who's building your marketing plan, start thinking about how you can add a few hours a week, whether it's with Featured, LinkedIn, some of these places, building your credibility as an expert, and then starting to answer some of these questions using these topics as ways to build out what people are asking about in your space, and really think about the small guy. Think about the people who have the exact audience that are looking for what you have, not just how can we get as many eyes on it, because that is not, it's like that saying where you'd rather have 1% of $1 billion company than 0% of a zero, or 100% of a $0 company, right? You'd rather have 100 people who actually care about your product, see it, and want to buy it with a high conversion rate than have millions of people see it and none of them are interested in your product, right? So really thinking through that. But if I am thinking of using Featured, I'm excited about what I saw today or what you said. How can people get in touch with you? How can they find you?
Yeah, just go to featured.com. You can sign up for a free account, answer some questions, and get featured in articles. So, and then I'm hanging out on live chat. We just launched a new application with new features. You can now submit byline articles. You could also conduct interviews to land executive interview profiles. So if you want to get me, I'm hanging out on live chat, answering questions on featured.com.
I gotta tell you, honestly, the name that you picked is awesome, and it does the job for you, right? This is also a case study in just picking the right name, the right branding for your product. It nails it.
Tamara, you just brought up I don't know if Brett, you want to talk about this on live, but you were named something else. This was a rebrand. And I remember it was a really, it took a lot of consideration because it was such an expensive rebrand, but is it worth it?
Yeah, I think so. Previously we were named Turkle, and it was not a .com, it was turkle.io. And so, yeah, it would be a much tougher question to answer of how do people find you, Brett? Go to turkle.io. It's not LE, it's EL, and it's a .io. Yeah, so there's
it doesn't have an E.
It loses the cool factor, man. It's out.
Yeah, he doesn't need a mission statement. It already says his mission, right? It's a really great branding case study for sure.
I love case studies. We will have to bring you back on for that one day, because I do think, I think you're right. Featured is just, that's it. It's perfect.
It's fun.
It's easy to find, and it's exactly what you do. So it hits the nail on the head.
Well, thank you. I would be happy to come back on the show at some point and talk about if it worked out for us.
Yeah, we'll let you get your data together. We won't start asking questions on that, or anything like that. But anyway, thank you guys all for joining us today. We have some really great lives coming up next week. We have a live from London all about building a business with mission and impact. We have a live coming up all about marketing attribution and data, and how do you attribute your dollars and your ROI to marketing. We have one all about accessibility, and that's an exciting one because it's an ex-business partner of mine and a really good friend, all about accessibility in your business and how do you include the disability community into your product. So lots of great lives coming up, lots of great case studies coming up. So make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, you follow us on LinkedIn. We are on Instagram, TikTok, pretty much anywhere you can find us, whatthefractshow.com. And you can download our freebie fractional, what do we call it? Why can't I think of it? Yeah, our fractional matrix that we give out and use for all of our company case studies. So go over there, join our newsletter, and join our community.
Awesome.
Right on.
Well, happy marketing.
Thank you.
Let me end.